Okay, we live up there. We are live. Okay. Spunky today in the studio. Y'all full of energy today. I can't wait until this episode.
Always.
All right, I'll do the introduction, get it started, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
10 seconds. Quiet in the studio.
Quiet in the studio.
All right, you are 3, 2, 1. You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM Oakland and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, your man Cat Fitness, and our guest host today, Darren from Financial State of Mind, y'all.
Hey, what's up? What's up?
What's going on, y'all? Hey, today, like I had a conversation earlier, was it yesterday or earlier this week, with this fabulous woman, to the point where I had to invite her into the radio station, y'all. Like, I didn't even know she had a book out. Like, she has a book, and then she started just breaking down life. And the way she was breaking down life, she broke it down in such a simplistic form that I was like, man, maybe she has some jewels to drop to our audience today. And, you know, with reading a portion of her book, because I haven't read the full book yet, I know she has some jewels for y'all. Mm-hmm. So we have Miss Candice Brown in the building. She's an author. She's a mom. She's a nurse. She's a wife. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, Miss Candice?
Well, thank you for having me here first.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Well, first of all, I am a child of God. And
tell it like it is then.
Well, that's number one.
And she said first of all.
First things
first. Let me clarify things for y'all.
But it wasn't always like that.
Oh,
okay.
And that's why the book is important. Because it's about choices. I just learned early on in life that I was able to choose who I wanted to be. So it wasn't really because it was necessarily poured into me. Morals and values were poured into me, but my character had to develop. Because, you know, when we're growing up, you kind of pick up what's being taught to you in your home.
Yeah, your environment.
In your environment, in your surroundings.
Exactly.
You know. And with that surroundings, I was very defensive. I learned how to be defensive. You know, always willing to argue and fight and stuff.
Being reactive to the
more
the
reactive,
world.
negatively though. Because we're always going to be reactive. It's how you choose to respond. Where did you grow up, Miss Candice? B-Town.
Hey.
Berkeley.
Homegirl in the house. Homegirl in the house. We got them tie-dye Berkeley vibes up in here.
That's right. You know,
in the building today.
we got love all around here.
Berkeley's in the building today.
Yes, you know, the melting pot, which I love.
Yes.
Oh, I love being from Berkeley.
Me too.
Absolutely. So I just I love to embrace life, but it wasn't easy. Life wasn't easy. I wrote this book because I found peace. I found love. I found joy. Before I even found.
I just love the title. How you started off the book. It's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time, and the reason I call it "It's Time" because we will allow ourselves to live in chaos and friction and being stuck and focusing on everything negative and woe is me. We will allow ourselves to be there.
But that's kind of that. Just like you said a little bit earlier ago, that's how we grew up. That's what we see. So as we're kids, we see that and we think that's the way.
But it's even more than just your household. It's society.
Yeah, your community, your
exactly.
school, your friends.
You know, we're taught you're taught unless you're not taught to kind of live in a box. And that box is a world that's really full of a lot of destruction. A lot of people, you know, it's hard to step out and stand up for what's right. You tend to blend.
Well, if you don't, and sometimes we don't know what's right.
Absolutely.
I was just about to say that if you're around an environment where everyone's doing wrong, how do you know what's right? And even if you know what's right, you need the reinforcement. So if you say, "Oh yeah, this is wrong," but even the person who's telling you that it's wrong is not doing it.
That happens.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
very important too. So I really think, for me, I would want to going outside of my scope and seeing other people that live in peaceful and they seem so happy all the time. But that's what really helped me. When I said, like, how do you seem so happy all the time, and they just talk so nice and so sweet, you know, and it just looked good for your spirit, and it felt good in my spirit. And I just wanted, and I wanted to gravitate to that. I wanted to know, what am I doing wrong? And
I was about to say, I think that's one of the keys that you just said right there, because you start listening to your spirit and where your spirit
And
was
that's
guiding
key.
you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of doing what people tell you and may sound good, does it feel good to your spirit as you're doing it?
And that's how I was
Does it
wanted to
align?
respond.
Yep.
Exactly.
Does
Did
it
it
align
feel
with
good
you?
though? Does it, you know, because they're saying it right. Does it feel right on the inside? And it still might until you experience something else.
Yeah.
And just so you know, my background in nursing, I worked at a high school for 5 years, and that's when I was in my early 20s. And that's when I realized that life was different and people were different, and that a lot of people didn't even know love. And not knowing love is what we say a lot.
Yeah, not knowing love is not knowing God.
Exactly. and just imagine, you know, people put finances along with upbringing and how you are going to be in your life, how you're going to present yourself. When that's not true, you can be poor, but if you were showered in love and somebody's been teaching you morals and values and saying, but although we're here, I'm preparing you to be better,
Right.
and saying you can be better, then you walk with that. You know, and just with my experience in working at Berkeley High School, what changed me, because I was very judgmental, and a lot of us are, until you realize that is not the way to live. You need to love on people and let them know there's more for you. Don't judge them. I realized that I had a young lady, if I have a quick moment, I was the school nurse, and she was hollering up and down the hallway, going up and down. So they brought her into my office, and she just never had anybody listen to her, for one. And when I'm listening to her, she's like, you don't understand, you'll never understand, because she was brought up in the foster system from a baby. She had been from home to home to home. And she said nobody's ever cared about her. Nobody cared where she was. And at 14, 15 years old, she was on East 14 prostitute.
Right.
And she basically had a nervous breakdown. And for me as a 27-year-old at that time, I think I was, I had never experienced anything like that. Anything I did was by choice. You know, and to have somebody say you never experienced love, and right then, and then I had a lot of encounters, honestly, of kids that were just lost to different systems. I stopped judging people, from drugs to the way they're presenting themselves at the moment, and realizing that they need opportunity, and they need resources, and they needed affection.
I was going to say that, you know, I was a children's social worker I'm a retired social worker. And so I was like, sounds like one of my clients. So I had a lot of kids that did exactly that. And what I was going to say is that sometimes with especially young kids that have been raised in the system, they can intellectually know that the resources are there, or somebody at some point has told them, hey, I can help you.
Yes.
Happens all the time. And I was a social worker. I would tell people all the time. I would tell kids all the time, okay, you know, I'm here for you. I can help you, et cetera, et cetera. But then what happens is that they have no ability to believe that. They have no, and I think it's so unusual. It's so important for people to understand that even if they are faced with you and with your love and with you trying to pour into them, as you're saying, that they are so deeply traumatized that it's almost impossible to get through those walls.
Well, they also have to go back to a home that's continuing to traumatize them.
Absolutely.
So they get that one moment with you, but they have a lifetime over here.
100%.
And a lot of it's generational. So it's just not mama, it's mama, grandmama, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody.
Yeah. But even if they're in a foster home, they unless that foster home is like a family member, aunt, grandma, shout out to the grandmothers of Alameda County. Okay. The grandmothers of Alameda County are angels, because they take their family kids, you know. But even if that's the case, there's still this deep-seated rejection. Even if their parents had substance abuse problems and they know that it's not them, they intellectually know this isn't me, it's not about me, but they still want to know, like, why can't you take care of me? Like, how come you don't love me enough to take care of me in the way that I need to be taken care of? And so it's a lot of work to get in those little cracks.
It's a lot. So
I
was a foster parent. And me being a foster parent actually just happened by chance. I actually have been a nurse for over 25 years.
Right.
I did public health for the past 7 years, and like yourself, I'm retired.
Yeah.
But I took in one of my clients
Mm-hmm.
because he was a good kid. He was going to go to a foster system. And with that, we just loved on him, like he's your own child.
Right. Oh, yes.
I mean, it was smothering in him in love. And this child has done so well now. And honestly, by the time he came to us, he actually had a disability that nobody knew about because he came from a very harsh situation. And so when he came to us, we were like, wait a minute, this is not just trauma. Because I've been a nurse forever. I knew where to put him and everything.
Right.
And as time was going by, we started having him evaluated, and he actually had autism.
Yeah, sure.
All those years. He
Lots
had no
of
sense of
undiagnosed
socialization.
on the spectrum. Yes.
Yes. So even when you talk about the grandmothers, it's still what are they receiving in those homes?
Amen.
It's what are they receiving? We gave him nothing but love.
Yeah.
And with him having autism, it's even hard for him to show that back.
Right.
But we knew that it worked because we watched him evolve and develop. And we just dropped him off at Fresno State the first of this month.
Yes.
Yes. He's in his own little apartment and everything.
Oh, I love it.
But that's God is good, and that was an assignment God sent us.
That's
it
right.
was very hard.
I'm sure.
He was supposed to be with us for 6 months. We had him 4.5 years.
How old was he when
He
came
was
to
15 and a half,
Oh, wow.
but he had the mindset of an 8-year-old.
Got it.
He couldn't barely talk. Literally, we had him in speech, ABA.
Sure.
We had to start. When I say it was a struggle, but this is also us knowing God, that He was an assignment, because we thought it was going to be this 15-year-old that we're going to send to counseling and we're going to make life good and easy for you. And actually, it became more of a challenge for us that we did, and we allowed with God's help him develop.
Yeah.
And so love is always the key. That's mine.
It is the key, honey.
When did you come to that realization though? Like that love is the key? Because I feel like that's a jewel that you just dropped.
So
right?
let me just say that me actually using the term love is the key is more new for me the closer I got to God. I wasn't always a follower of God. I knew God was real, but I didn't go to church or anything like that. So the first thing that happened for me was making a mindset change to say I'm going to live positive on purpose. I'm not going to let negative energy, negative thoughts or anything, because my mother told me years ago, whether she did it for herself or not, that I could be whatever I wanted to be. So I walked with that. I
heard that.
But for a long time, I wasn't necessarily living like that. Like anything I put myself to, I would do it. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. But I was still a fighter. If you want to go low, I'm gonna go low with you. I'm not gonna
match your frequency.
I'm gonna match your energy and give you a little bit more, because I'm not gonna start it, but I'm the one that will finish it. Right? But then I realized that it just kept me hurting on the inside. That's negative, and it's hurtful, and it's destructive. And when I realized over time, and maybe I heard it somewhere, just using your positive energy and I know what it was. The old saying, kill them with sweetness, kill them with kindness.
Yeah, kill them with kindness.
When I started practicing the kill it with kindness, I started getting different results. And then the whole positive on purpose, and I started getting different results. And I guess I'm by nature maybe an encourager. I didn't know back then, but as I started feeling better about myself, it was easier to encourage others. And I could actually see that negative energy as it would go into them, but no, ignore that. You're a queen. Start uplifting.
What made you make that shift where you started feeling better about yourself?
Pain.
What do you mean? Let's expand on that.
What makes you make that shift is, and then seeing people that are happy, you wonder why you're not.
Yeah.
And what are they doing differently? And that's so important, because people tend to walk away from or downplay when somebody else is walking in their greatness. And instead of she thinks she that. No. See, when you see somebody doing something great or that you want, you just know that person. You want to go and make sure it's out the right spirit too. Because everything that looks good is not necessarily good.
True that.
But when you see that good spirit, you should gravitate to the spirit. Don't downplay it because you're not in that same place. Be a winner and look for winners. Abundance comes from the inside. Winners is not a dollar sign. It's just not. A winner says, this girl's just so peaceful. She could be over there mopping the floor and she's singing and she happy. She's like, hey y'all. Winner, abundance. She can walk in peace amongst the midst of everything else.
Right.
And that's what I wanted for myself. And I know that the more I worked on it, and it's a work initially, especially if you're one that's fiery. Because I always was fiery.
Right.
I don't start nothing. And that would make it even worse because I don't start. Like I'm always kind of cool in the beginning. I'm just good.
Right.
But if you start, you don't take my kindness for weakness. I was always that person.
Right.
And I had to learn how to stray from that. Like stop going back in time. You're in the newspaper. That's when God started speaking to my heart. So then I started seeking him more. You know, when you know that he's a living spirit and he's got a peace. And this, a lot of people go through this when you think about Christianity and stuff first. You know, we pray and we know we have favor, but you never heard, you never read his word. You never had a one-on-one. You just go to church and then you still live in all kinds of ways.
Sure.
But we hallelujah. We're not knocking that because you still made a step to say, I know he's real. I would say, I challenge you to get to know God one-on-one. That's between you and him. Can nobody else separate that? And nobody can save you but him. And I'm not saying Savior for salvation for your eternal life only, because that's not that difficult. I'm saying to have him walking with you and get every blessing he has for you because you have a relationship with him.
Yeah, it sounds like also that you learned how to live more so in the present moment. Because how you said not to reflect on the past and different things that were going on and allowing to see your blessings day by day, minute by minute, second by second.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's one of the greatest lessons when you're getting a greater connection with God is God will speak with you in the moment if you're in the moment. You know, if I'm not thinking about, what that person cut me off in traffic yesterday, or my coworker said something that made me mad and I'm still thinking about it today, has nothing to do with the present moment.
Right.
What is going on presently with me and allowing me to check in with myself to be able to receive those messages where I need to be, what I need to be doing, and just be thankful.
Absolutely. I love that you said that when you check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Because that is all day, every day. When you decide to walk in a different spirit and the spirit of love, remember I started out with positive on purpose because I'm just working on character change. But the day that I decide to walk in love means I want to walk with God. Love is everything. It's peaceful. It's caring. You know, it's uplifting. It just took it to a whole nother level.
And it's hard to check in with yourself. It's hard to walk like that if you aren't taking the time to check in with yourself, like Kat was just saying. And I want to know, and I think a lot of women, wives, moms want to know, how do you put yourself first sometimes? How do you take the time and the moment to check in with yourself when life is busy, life is chaotic?
So that's the problem right there, though, because what you're saying is life is.
Sure.
But
almost
you
like an
can't
affirmation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
but you can't
that's
do
true.
anything without making sure you're okay first. And then you say it's busy, but we're talking about a second of time. That's the thing. People put so much on time.
Yeah.
Time is precious. Make sure you're spending time for you and your inside first.
Yes.
You're checking yourself when you wake up and you look in the mirror. That's the beginning of it.
Right.
You know, and that's in my book. You got to speak to your soul. You have to evaluate, like you said, what happened yesterday? How could I have dealt with that different? Because you know when you went off on somebody. You know when you had that thought. How could I have made that different?
Yeah.
You know, so checking it can take a split of a minute, but do it.
And I agree with you. And I think that's something, I think that's a lesson that a lot of people don't get.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't grow up with. A lot of women particularly do not grow up with check in on everybody else.
Right.
You know, check in on your mama, check in on your grandma, check in when you have kids, check in on them, check in with your kids' teachers, you know, check in with your kids' coach. But with all of the things and the responsibilities that take us away from checking in with ourselves, I think that it has, that it's something that has to be I don't know, a conversation or sometimes somebody has to teach you
I was just about to
to
say
do that.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, and we don't always get taught how to do
I was just
that.
about to say the ability to reflect is
Yes.
a skill. It is a skill. The ability to reflect on yourself is a skill, because it is. Like, trust me. Like, I also come from the social background. I worked in a group home.
Mm-hmm.
We literally, when the kids would get in trouble, we would say, such and such, you got to go reflect. That's what we literally said, that reflect. And we made them sit down with themselves, and they weren't allowed to. They were basically on timeout. It was basically timeout. So literally, you sit down in a chair and you're by themselves. It was kind of, at first I was like, why are we making a 15-year-old be on timeout? But we were literally teaching them, you have to reflect. And what happens is, going back to your thing about love, you need love to be able to reflect. Because if you don't have that positive energy too, what's your incentive to reflect? If you're walking around upset, mad at the world, angry because you never got the love, you never got the positive vibes, the positive energy into you, it's so much more difficult to reflect, which is the first step you need to be able to change anything about yourself.
So what I'm gonna say about that is that it, like you said, a person who doesn't know love, who's never had positivity, whatever, you're at that moment is your teaching moment for them. Because you can tell somebody to reflect. Do they understand what that means first? To me, and then replay what happened.
Right.
And then how could you have done this differently? You're there to try to help them show a positive way, and how how it helps you even spiritually and within yourself to feel better and not to be hurting anybody. Because the goal is not to hurt, but to love on and to shine on other people. And another key thing that I felt that, and this is all in my book, honestly, because it's about self-awareness, because that's basically what you're saying. They're not self-aware.
Exactly.
And that's in my book, because how can you be accountable if you're not self-aware?
Right.
You can't be.
So you have to learn that.
Yeah.
So it really comes also from modeling, having good people around you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same way they have for me, just being around the people that, I want to say the right people that handle things in a different way that seem peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where they had joy.
I want to take a piece out of your book, because you talked about how your mother was having like these symptoms, like she was having like anxiety attacks. It sounded like, right? To the point where she had to go to the hospital multiple times and everything like that. And this today is my 9-year anniversary of my health scare. When I had something similar, like I said, it was a couple chapters in your book that really spoke to me, because I had those same kind of symptoms that I heard you speaking about with your mom, right? And 9 years ago, I woke up, I'm having this tight pressure in my chest. I can barely breathe. I feel like I'm going to pass out, to the point where when the paramedics came, they thought I was having a heart attack, right? So they rushed me to the hospital, the whole nine, did all the checks like they checked your mom, and found out nothing's going on, right? But the person feels something.
Yes.
You feel something. The energy inside of you is off, right? Where they can't detect that.
Right.
In the sense that when I was going through all those things, I had to check in at that moment. It was, my wife was asleep, my kids were asleep, my mother-in-law was asleep. I only had myself to check in with. I only had God to check in with. You know, I'm sitting there thinking that I'm about to die, and all I have is me and God to talk to, right? At that point, I started doing more of that once I started my health journey after 9 years ago. I started looking inside of me like, what do I need to start changing? And I was like, man, I need to start changing what I eat. I need to stop drinking as much as I'm drinking. I had all the tools. I knew exactly what needed to be changed, but we had this conversation before the show. The action needed to be taken. Right?
Absolutely. Right.
A lot of us all have the cure of whatever is going on in our own personal journey, but are we taking the action that's being told to us to get us back on track, to get us in the alignment that we need for our own personal journey?
Well, it's not always. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's not always told to us, is what I was about to say.
What you mean?
You know, you said like the action that is told to us. Do you mean by told coming from the
Yeah.
universe, okay, coming from God.
Yeah,
that
I'm
the
saying if you
messages-
ask, you're going to get signs.
If you ask, you will receive.
Yeah, you're going to
Right.
get signs. But once you get that sign, you be like, dang, I know I need to stop eating them cookies and this and that. But I'm going to keep on doing it anyway. Yeah, I'm going to keep on doing it anyways. And that's where you have the choice.
Well, I
right?
feel like we talk about this a lot. And, I always say this, Kat,
Uh-huh.
I feel like depending on how you were raised and the environment that you came up with, there is a feeling of powerlessness where this, it's not just about food. Any action,
anything in life.
any action is not helpful, healthy, gonna get you to where you want to be in life or even keep you alive. And still there is a feeling of powerlessness where it's like, well, but this is the way I was
So
brought
you just
up.
said something real key,
Mhm.
and this is in my book too.
Mhm.
I need that word "but" to come out.
Right.
See, the problem is we can start talking positive and change, and that but, and that but, and that but,
100%.
that but is gonna get in your way.
Always.
It's gonna distract you. It's gonna tell you can't do it.
Always.
Just like my book, you have to choose to take your power.
Mm-hmm.
You have to choose power.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of positive stuff going on around you that you need to start clicking into. It's your choice to make that decision that I want something new. So my book doesn't say, oh, this is going to work for everybody.
Right.
This says if you're ready
Yes.
for change, when you're tired of being tired,
Yes.
you don't have to be.
Yeah.
You never have to be. But you got to go through your journey.
Yeah.
We go through journeys, so we have to be able to relate to other people as they go through theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say there is another way. And I promise if you just go on this course, and I can promise it to you, because it's your inner peace that you're looking for. And once you can get to your inner peace and know that, well, I'm going to give you good energy. And I'm going to do my best to always lift you up, never tear you down. I want to help you get on a positive light so we can all, the more together we are, the more we can put out.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to start from somewhere. So when somebody's instructing you, because I also, like, I'm not a therapist and I'm not against therapy. I think it's important. My goal, and we'll talk about that too, is to go into life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't call myself a life coach. I would say a life guide, because I'm just really giving you instruction that you need to follow.
Right.
No more buts, no more digging backwards,
Mm-hmm.
because the good thing about backwards, you've been through it already.
Right.
You might need healing, but allow yourself to heal, but become the person you want to be. Write down exactly everything you want for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a form of affirmation.
Absolutely.
That's telling God right there, this is what am I in alignment with you, Lord, that this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I want. And the more you start talking to that, when you put the spiritual side in it, you're there.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to do it on your own, but when you give yourself all power, and until you know that power, and you're not going to know that if you don't go reach out to the Lord.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think you said something very, very important, which is, you have to be ready. You have to trust yourself when you feel ready for change. You have to be able to trust yourself, which is very challenging for a lot of people, of course.
Mhm.
And then you have to be able to seek help and seek guidance and commit to that seeking.
The commitment is key.
100%. And also not giving up, because sometimes it doesn't come fast enough. We're in this
Patience.
We're in this thing where everything has to be fast, and we're so used to consuming at a fast rate. If we want to buy something, we can get it in 24 hours on Amazon. We can watch whatever we want to watch on Netflix. We want relationships to be fast. We want to go on a date and know if he's the one. So I think that in that mindset that is fostered by this society, this consumeristic, did I make up that word? I don't know. Society.
It sounded good, though.
It sounds like a real word. When we're in that kind of fast-paced, results now type of mindset, that is not healthy or conducive to real change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's in my book too.
Right.
It's step by step.
Give us the name of your book one more time.
It's called It's Time. It's
The
Time.
book is called It's Time. I held it up in front of my camera for all the people that want to check out Miss Candice's book.
This is a short book. It's a quick read on purpose because what we're talking about is simple. It's just not easy.
Ooh, wait. It is simple, but it is not easy, Jesus. Yes. Okay, I heard the heck out of that.
Let me add on to that because I have a similar philosophy. Honestly, I'll just say this. People are not going to like what I'm about to say.
Nope.
The answer to life, very simple and easy.
Absolutely.
The execution to life is why you have that book.
Exactly. You better speak it.
You better say it, Darren.
And that's just because I'm a coach too. I'm a financial coach, so it's the same thing. When people come to me about why can't I buy a house, why am I broke, why I can't do this, don't tell me you don't know that you're spending too much money.
People don't know how to get it together, though, Darren. As somebody who has personally received assistance from this man, sometimes we don't know.
Right, but
judgmental.
But the answer, I am judgy. I'm judgy. Right. I don't treat people different, but I'm human. I'm judged. But I don't. The treatment is what it is what's important.
True.
But that's what I realized is that the concepts itself are generally not that difficult, but it's always the execution. It's the act of doing something to make that change.
It's hard. It's hard.
It's brutal.
Sure, it is.
Brutal.
It is brutal because change is really, really, really hard, and most of us don't want to do it.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You really don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to make a commitment to it. You have to be ready.
And every
you
day,
have to be honest with yourself.
You have to commit every day.
Right.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Every day. Yep.
Because people live in delusions. They live in their fantasies. And when you really want to go head on and make a change, you got to be real first.
Ooh. We're gonna talk about that after our music break. That we're gonna take it real quick. Keeping it real with yourself, y'all. You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM Oakland, streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show, and we're going to take a quick music break, y'all.
And it knows exactly what you need to help you overcome all the pain and strife that's inside.
Everything's up.
Sometimes you have to witness darkness to brighten your
So
eyes.
I'm going to warn everybody that my live is still on, so keep it clean.
All right, we got a 3-minute song here, y'all. So we got a song. Anybody need water?
Although we abundance of waves on the sea of time.
Oh, good. I'm
We
actually.
all Christ
I know we're gonna have to have you for a part 2 because we halfway through the show, and I feel like conversation.
Oh, yeah. Because it's a lifetime of work. You know, but you have to make that decision to want more. You have to be tired. It's not for everybody. Even when you talk about finances, we know what we're doing. But are you ready for the real change? Are you ready to really tackle it? But it's all in there. You have to make that plan in your mind first. You have to check yourself in your mind, then write it down, then put on the computer. I don't even handwrite. Something about writing
I'm the
stuff.
same way.
Sticks with you. You know. But it's in there. No, it is not an overnight thing. It's a lifetime thing. Changes for life. It's a lifetime.
Not a quick guy to lose 10 pounds and say I'm at the finish line.
No, not at all. And then it's going to be up and it's down, but the good thing is once you know where you are, what you desire, and how to get there, you know how to get right back up. And you don't have to persecute yourself because we are here. But you don't want to fall on that. You know, just know that when you do fall, we know how to get back up. We know how to be apologetic. We know how to be accountable. We know how to get back up.
We're gonna say this for the show.
Okay.
You let your spirit speak
I
through
know you know. I'm even been there, done that.
I had to get on my grind and get out my feelings. Who am I kidding? Asking myself, like, why is it chilling? Why is it chilling? I'm sacrificing my sleep. I'm manifesting these dreams. I understand the nature of this reality. Or this pseudo reality.
I love how you see on certain things. I love his shine. You know what I'm saying? You know how to cut the
Soul
conversation.
existence rests on the thought. And thus, if you wish to change anything in your reality, Is
God
this
is
change
getting
your
ready for
thoughts?
something.
Like for real.
And have your
Because
actions
connections
align
are
with those
important.
thoughts?
Like
You are not the
especially
universe,
once you
but
give
you
it
are
in,
the
surrender
cosmos.
to God,
God
you
today,
know that you're walking
day
in.
at a time.
Not him
Hey,
just walking
they
with you.
dedicated and
Not
stay
him
on
just
your
always
grind.
walking with
Hey,
you because
I
he
know
loves
they
you. He's
hate,
gonna walk with
gon'
you.
pay 'em
The
no
day you
mind.
decide to
Yeah,
walk with him,
the sacrifices
listen
they gon'
and
pay
take
out in
obey.
time. They gon'
And
pay
those are
out.
harsh words. You don't want to
They
hear those
gon'
words.
pay out in
So
time.
listen
They
and take
gon' pay
action.
out.
How about that?
They gon' pay
You
out
gotta
in
be careful the
time.
words you
They
use
gon'
because it
pay
can turn people
out.
on.
They
But it's
gon'
the
pay
reality.
out in time.
Listen to your
Yeah,
spirit and like, okay,
gotta
Lord.
take it.
You know what I'm
Day
saying?
at a time.
Spirit, like,
Pay out.
tell Miss Candice to bring her butt to the studio to have this conversation. Whatever it may be, it's going to impact somebody that we may never meet. That's just the way life is.
Yeah.
Somebody reads your book. Never met the person a day in your life, but they read it and they understand the language. They understand their soul. That's what they need to spark that
I've
flame.
actually had that happen already. You know, I'm just always thinking God that is the goal. For you to receive it.
Yep, I'm coming back, y'all. All right, 15 seconds.
So good already. No, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
I'm just like reading about your mom.
10 seconds, y'all. Everybody getting ready. You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM Oakland, streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, your man, Cat Fitness, and our guest host today, Darren from Financial State of Mind, y'all. We talking about it's time.
Mm-hmm.
It is time. If you don't know what time it is, Miss Candice Brown is going to tell you what time it is today. So we were just talking about the journey of being like obedient, and the challenges that come with that, right? You were kind of exploring and giving us details. Can you further those details? Can you explain to our viewers exactly what you mean?
Well, once you're getting direction or something in your mind says, I want to change, I mean, act on it. Don't let it come and then go. We all do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
It
always.
goes all day
Sure.
long. Because honestly, God's been speaking to your soul for a long time. We don't listen. Some great energy's been speaking to your soul for a long time. Are you ready to listen? Once it gets in your mind, you take action on it. And taking action can look however it looks to you. Whether it's like, okay, it's making a plan for sure. This is what I'm going to start doing. I don't care if it's just one thing. I'm going to start getting up earlier just so I can say thank you. When I brush my teeth, I'm going to look at myself and reflect on what I did earlier yesterday and could I have done it differently. 2 or 3 minutes.
But I was about to say, I think that's one of those keys that we were talking about earlier about checking in with yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't learn how to wake up early enough to check in with yourself, then you don't create that routine throughout the rest of the day. If I'm waking up just in time to take care of the kids, go to work and do all these things, I'm on somebody else's time at that point. But if I wake up 15, 20, 30 minutes before, and I can check in with myself, I can check in with the relationship that I have with God, then I've made that time initially in the day that allows it to play throughout the day.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a habit that sometimes you have to really, really implement. And I was telling my kid this too, because he was saying he just started high school, and he was saying, oh, I feel like I'm not doing all the things that I want to do, and I'm not, combing my hair every morning or whatever, doing all the things. And
He's just in a rush. He's running around the house like,
he gets up at like 6. I mean, and I'm always like, son, we are not leaving the house until like 7:30. Like, relax, So he's up super early, and I said during that time period, make a plan, like have it written down. Like you were saying, I'm a list maker. My alarm goes off all day long, because I have meetings all the time and all this other stuff. If I don't have it written down, it is probably not going to get done. And so I said, if you want to do A, B, and C, put that on your chalkboard on your wall. Do this, that, and the other. Because if we don't find the tools that work for us to implement the things that we want to achieve, then like you were saying, do it. It's your responsibility. you know, to get out there and do those things and to trust yourself in, okay, I can do this. It's not everything has to be a, oh my God, I don't want to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I live on a calendar. I believe in definitely writing down the things I need to do and not overdoing stuff.
Yeah.
Or committing yourself.
That's where I go wrong.
Because all my life, I mean, I've always had my hustle.
Yeah.
And that's because I became a single mother when I was young, at 27, but I never wanted to fail. So I really think I lived in fear for years.
Mm-hmm.
And with that fear, my hustle was crazy. Because I didn't have anybody that was going to help me.
Right.
I didn't have people that would say, "Oh, I'll help you with your phone bill," or "I'll help you pay that PG&E," or "Did you need some help?"
Right.
I didn't have that. Matter of fact, I had people with their hands out.
Right.
You know, so with that being said, I just had a very hustle mentality. But as I look back, because I wonder sometimes, how did I do everything I did?
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
well, you don't want to live by fear.
Right.
But I am going to say that it lit a fire under me because I had to make sure I was taking care of my child,
Yeah.
and he always had a roof, and that he could enjoy his life. But one day my fear turned into faith.
Mm-hmm.
The day I realized God was real. See, I've been walking, going to church, and you're hearing all this stuff. I never put it to practice.
Mm.
I was just going to church and living like everybody else. You understand? Like we do.
Right.
And I was in a situation, this is in my book, at a job that I had that I loved. And I worked very hard for. And I was always under fire all of a sudden. And maybe it was because I was starting to love on God more, but I had never tested God. And one day I just tested and I'm like, Lord, this is at a jail. If you don't help me with this, I'm going to end up in this jail.
Straight up.
You don't, because I'm going to get one of these girls, right? For real. Because I'm really not that one to mess with, right? Back then, I'm better now. But I did. He said, you to cast your cares. He said, let go, let God. He told me to walk in my peace. So every day, all of a sudden, I just started praying before I would go to work. And I'm like, Lord, give me the right, because I speak with my face too.
Mm-hmm.
So give me the right words out my mouth, the right facial expression, and let me continue to be the person you want me to be as I go through all this. And I said I was under attack. These girls did not like, they didn't even know why they didn't like me, because I was always super friendly. Again, I'm a good nurse.
Yeah.
Always willing to help and everything else. And then it took about a year. So that's why patience is important.
Yes.
Trust and patience. Yeah. I trusted. I've been going to church enough to know that I'm supposed to know and trust God.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have faith.
Right.
You
and
know,
he planted the seed.
And
he watered the seed.
But I didn't know it well enough though, because I hadn't been reading my word yet.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to church, but I knew that faith was important. Mm-hmm. And when I put that and I used what I've been hearing in church and gave it to the Lord, do you know within a year's time, each one of those nurses, this is in my books, started coming back to me and apologizing for their behavior.
Wow.
They remember God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And said, you have never done that wrong to us. And they were saying individually to me or whatever. And I received humbleness also. Mm-hmm. Because you fight more when you're walking in pride. Mm-hmm. Well, you ain't going to say that to me. Well, I ain't going to let that go. Okay, well, I'm just going to let it go. Right. So I don't care because I'm happy. When I started walking in that, everything started becoming different. I don't have to, I can't change a person.
Right.
But I can change my response to it.
That's right.
And you're not wasting
That's
any
what I always
energy
say.
And they were not wasting the energy.
Yeah.
And I get to be myself and still be fun and be humble and everything. And that was my first time it was my first time knowing God had been there with me, because he's been my provider forever, helping take care of me. But it was my first time really seeing that he not only did he hear my prayers, he interceded. Yeah. Because I was obedient. And that was probably when I decided, now I learned this word better. Let me actually read this word. And then the Lord, when I started reading the Bible, I'm like, oh my God, this is really the blueprint to life. I was like 36, 37 years old. I was getting older, but I finally put it to practice. Yeah. So that's really important. You just have to put it to practice. There's something I said before about the title of the book, that is, it's time.
Yeah. How did you come up with that?
God gave it to me a long time ago. And so I've had excerpts of this for years. Just it would come down. I find pieces of stuff I've been writing for years, and I was always saying, "Oh, I'm writing a book." And I was always doing something. And it just started sounding ridiculous after a point, because I was never finishing a book. Writing a book.
Yeah.
But in 2021, when I just finally I decided I wanted to walk with God. I started knowing him. I started reading his word and getting more of a relationship with him. And I had a major hip surgery, and God was like, retired. I'm like, retired? So I didn't have enough years in to retire. I mean, I could, but it wasn't like going to enough money
Yeah.
to me.
Right.
But see, he said he's your provider.
Mhm.
So I listened to it and I retired. And I'm doing better now than I was doing when I was working.
Right.
And I'm a registered nurse here in California. And
Yeah.
do well.
Oh yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm doing well.
Right.
Okay?
Mhm.
Because God said so.
Mhm.
And then he said, while I was off recuperating, he said, finish your book.
Mhm.
And let me just say, I was going through a lot of medical challenges at the time, so I was always tired.
Mhm.
But he gave me every bit of energy to get up every day, go to Starbucks, and write on this book, look
Yes.
for a publisher, submit, and get published. And it came to pass. And I don't rush anything. We talked
Right.
about running everything. I learned to be patient because God
Yeah.
said be patient.
Yeah.
I learned that it's not a rush, it's His time. And when I decided to live the way that He said to live, everything just opens up. All the doors are just opening, and I have peace. Its time also came from COVID.
We had nothing but time.
Right.
What did you do with your time?
It gave you a lot to
Right.
reflect on. And
Sure
people
did.
started realizing qualities. I always believe in quality of life.
Mhm.
I became a nurse for quality of life, not the money. I wanted
Right.
to be able to pay my bills and not work myself to death.
Yeah.
To do it.
Yeah.
I've always believed in having quality. I think a lot of people got a chance to really look at their lives and realize they needed quality and not the hustle.
Mhm.
You don't need the things. What you
Right.
need is your health.
Right.
Yes.
You need your family. And you need your peace.
Yeah, what is really valuable to you,
Right.
What is,
you know?
yeah, that's the thing. Because a lot of people, I know a lot of people out there that thrive on the hustle
Mhm.
because that is just their personality type.
Mhm.
And then I think that one of the things we found during the pandemic is that a lot of people who thought that was them turned out to really be kind of introverts.
Mhm.
Where you think, and even me a little bit, like everybody would never think that I would be an introvert, but I liked just gardening, cat knows,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gardening and tooling around my house and making all kinds of like medicinal oils and things like that. Like I was into it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm not a social person and like
Not
my
at all.
friends and stuff like that. But I think that did give us time to reflect upon
Mhm.
what is truly important in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's where the title came from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like your title because you just mentioned it, and I want to talk about it a little bit more because I think it's understated. Change and anything that you really want for yourself, it takes time. And I think you were mentioning this earlier. We're in a society where we get so much things that are instant gratification,
Yeah. Yeah.
but what hasn't changed is the things we all want universally, love, owning a house, being in being in a relationship, having kids. That all takes time. And I think a lot of people don't understand that it's supposed to take time.
Mhm.
Now, me being in
Yeah.
finance, the ultimate goal is to buy a house. Buy a house. Doesn't matter if you're in Texas. Doesn't matter if you're in the Bay Area. Doesn't matter if the house is $250,000 or $1 million. There's no way you should have a concept that you can just wake up one day and you're gonna buy a house.
Right.
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 It's
But a lot of people do.
right, but it's shocking. Right. It's shocking that a lot of people do. But it's the same thing with any change. Is you can't wake up. It's great that you wake up and be like, I want to change, but you can't have the expectation. And that's what I find destroys people is expectation. They have the wrong expectations. You gotta have the correct expectation. And everything truly great in life still in 2023, as much as technologies have improved and make things better and make things faster, still takes time.
Everything's
Yeah.
inside.
And I think also people think it's a finish line. One of the things that we were talking about off air on our music break was that's a daily practice.
Yes, I
Yeah.
was about to say that.
You know what I'm saying? Everything that we're talking about, people have to implement every single day.
Because you have to
You
make
know
a
what I'm saying?
choice
It's-
every
Well,
day.
actually,
All
Yeah.
day.
Let me butt in
Yeah.
quickly. Let's be real. It's okay if it's not every single day. We're human.
Well, yeah.
But
Yeah, sure.
but consistency, and people misinterpret consistency. Consistency, a lot of people think, or at least me, I used to think it was every single day you have to do the exact same thing.
No.
And that's not true. We're all human. Things come up. So you're going to have your days. But what I say is consistency. Don't look at it as a day-to-day or week-to-week. look at it as a yearly thing, a 6 months thing. If you've been doing the same thing 27 out of 30 days, you're doing your job. But if you're doing you're doing something for maybe 7 days out of 30, that's not every day no more. That's not consistent. So you have to be, Kat's absolutely right. You have to be consistent, but your goal should always be daily.
But I think that also, so sorry, I was going to say that one thing that we don't want to do, or I feel like we should not do, is on those days and times when we aren't consistent, or we lose motivation, or we have, we're depressed, or we're feeling some sort of way, to not then beat up on ourselves,
right?
To then give ourselves grace.
Yes,
yep.
And just say, this is just not the day. Today isn't the day. Tomorrow may also not be the day. And when I feel, back to whatever has sapped my empowerment, right? When I get that back, then I'll get back on track. But in the meantime, I'm going to maybe sit here and rest.
Absolutely. We all need that rest. What I am going to say is, when you said that it doesn't have to be every day.
Right.
Well, for things, I don't think it has to be every day. But for self, it has to be every day.
Yes.
It has to be a check-in every day.
Yeah.
Even that check-in that says, today ain't the day.
Yeah.
You still check
That's
in.
a check-in. That's right.
That's facts.
You still check in.
Yes. That is your check-in
For
today.
our inner being, it has to be.
It is
and
every
it can
day.
be all day. It doesn't necessarily have to be first thing in the morning. Oh, I wake up in gratefulness. I wake up saying thank you, because the Lord didn't have to give me breath to wake up this morning. And as we're seeing, people are coming and going, they drop in, and we're not promised. So every day I walk in gratefulness. But I guarantee you probably do this already, and if not, throughout the day somewhere you're gonna check in.
Yeah.
Somebody gonna make you check in, a matter of fact. It just depends what you're going into. The difference is now you're more aware of your check-in and why you choose to check in. You're intentional. I intentionally choose not to respond to you.
Right.
Where I might have wore you out.
Right.
I might have cut you, but I don't choose that, because I choose my peace. Then you'll start choosing, it gives you a different energy, your surrounding is to change. And all the confrontation that you used to be in all the time, well, it's not there anymore, because that energy's not there.
Yes.
And you're drawing your new energy, and these people are also not confrontational.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you get to uplift each other. You get to say, don't put that out there. And some of it's fun. Some of us like some little fun drama. We don't laugh at it, and be like, no, we know better though. That's them.
So we're getting towards the end of the show, and I told you we're probably gonna have you come in for a part 2.
Yeah.
Getting real juicy. But before we let you go, can you tell us some of your daily practices of what it looks like, mind, body, and spirit? Like, what is your routine that holds you accountable, holds your foundation? Because it feels like, because you pour into yourself, you're allowed to pour into others. So what does that look like for you, Candice?
So I like I said, when I first opened my eyes, I'm grateful. I wake up, thank you, Lord. And I literally always check in with myself. I read into my scriptures. I do devotionals. I just started doing that in the past few years. I've known God since I was in my 30s. I just started doing devotionals in 2021. And I used to be against all that. I used to be against a lot of stuff, spiritually.
Yeah.
Until I realized how it really was to my soul, and how it's really made a difference, a huge difference. I'm retired now. I'm not going to say that. So I'm not going to run into work or anything like that. So I'm establishing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is beautiful. But I wasn't used to it at first. So I was always trying to find out where my next dollar was coming from, until the Lord spoke to myself. So and said, are you not content? Am I not providing for you? My job, your job now is my word, learning. And so that's where I'm at. I also do a lot of acting and stuff. So in my spare time, I work at the gym. That's how I make cash. I'm trying to take care of myself. I love to go work out.
You taking care of yourself.
Yeah, take care of myself.
Exactly.
I take care of my husband. I go down. I love to be by the water, and that's where I get my private time with God. I have free time to take care of my mom. I do things that please my soul, that makes me happy. That's primarily, I guess.
Yeah.
Daily practice. That's beautiful.
it.
Yeah.
So where can people find the book? Where can they find you on social media, all your different outlets, so they can, reach out if they want to ask more questions?
So the book is like in over 1,000 brick and mortars. But if you want to get it online, you can go to either Barnes and Noble or Amazon. It's online. And I have an Instagram. It's called Candice Speaks Power. And that's always a good outlet to go to if you're looking for some good uplifting, because I only put good uplifting stuff on there.
Yeah.
I had taken a break. I actually have a YouTube channel. There's going to be an It's Time channel, and there's a Candice Speaks channel. But this is how God works too, because I still like all the reality shows and stuff like that. And I just started doing the reality recaps or whatever.
Right.
And I was networking and started getting a flow, and God stopped me right there. Like, that ain't it for you.
Uh-huh.
So I did take a break. My husband got really sick. I've taken a break from a lot of stuff while he was healing. And I almost feel like this is God's way of saying, okay, it's time to start coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just stopped focusing on it and focused on his word like he told me to do. Because what you have to do is listen and be patient. He said, be still. So I started to listen to it. And then I met Kat. I met him at a fitness place that I go to all the time. Like, I don't really need an extra instructor.
Right.
But he had the right time. But I realize now that's not why. It was
no,
time
exactly.
for me to
Exactly.
Yes.
It never is. We always have to look a little bit deeper.
Right.
Yeah.
It was for me to meet this lovely spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Real recognizes real at the end of the day, y'all. So when you're putting out that positive energy, just like Candice said, you're going to start seeing more of yourself as you're walking through this world. And even the parts that you might not like about yourself that you have to address, why don't I like this part of myself? Why did that could have been a part of your former life that you were living, And once you're more conscious of all those things that you're encountering, you see the beauty in all of it. You see the love in all of it. You see the growth, right? And all we can do is take it one day at a time. Yeah. So thank you once again, Candice, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come out and talk about your book. Make sure I'm 3 chapters in and I'm hooked. I can't wait to get to the end of it by the end of the day. But make sure you guys go check it out. Make sure you follow her on social media, y'all. Like always, make sure you tune in to our show every Thursday on ach.show on IG. Like, follow, share, continue to live your best life, y'all. That's all we can do, one day at a time. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for. I'm getting some low battery. I should have charged my phone.
Low battery.
Thank you guys for joining us, and check out the book.
Your radio show, did you
check
ever
out
do
our
drops?
guests.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Love you all.
So all our guests does a drop. Say, hey, this is Candice Brown. Mm-hmm. Talk about your book. Well, it's Candice Brown, the author. The writer or the author of It's Time. Today I'm at the Anything Can Happen show, and today we're talking about
Walking God.
Yeah. Candice, what's your Instagram again?
Candice Speaks Power.
Candice Speaks Power.